Hello, and welcome to episode 65 of Moms with Yarn. Today is Monday, November 27th, and I am your hostess with the leastest amount of knitting this time. I am known as Bronx Knitter 1 on Ravelry and Bronx Knitter on Instagram. Welcome, and happy belated Thanksgiving. Have you started your Christmas shopping? I noticed I didn't ask about Christmas knitting because I'm not doing any. Everything I'm making for myself unless I don't like it, and then it'll go away. I got plenty of people who want stuff, but you get what you get because I make what I feel like making, and that's the joy of knitting. When you get to a certain age, it's not about making it to give it away all the time. I have so much yarn, and to be honest with you, in the beginning when I started knitting and making stuff, everybody was like, oh my gosh, you're so talented. Now they're like, whatever. Yep, that's exactly right. So I'm not saying that they don't appreciate it. There are a couple of family members who are totally knit worthy, and I knit for them throughout the year, so that's not the issue. Anyhow, so before I get into the knitting, I want to talk about this yarn that I dyed. And last episode, I put up the thread and I said, anybody who wants this yarn can have it. Well, somebody claimed it, and then I never got any. I said, send me your address, and I never heard back. So I am putting this back out there because this yarn is taking up space. So it is Knit Picks Bare Peruvian Highland Wool fingering weight. It is not superwash. And it was white, and now it's not because I dyed it. There's nothing wrong with it except that I dyed it because I knew I wasn't going to use it to knit anything. So it's 440 yards of a fingering weight 2-ply. And of course it doesn't have a colorway because I'm not that kind of gal. But there's a bunch of colors in here. And it's still soft and it's very usable yarn. I just have no use for it. So I would prefer a sock weight, something with nylon in it, and something that's superwash. This is not superwash, so whatever you make with it is going to have to get washed by hand. So I did it. I like it, but I don't love it. And again, it is going to go to the first person in the group that says they want it and then sends me their address. So be quick. So since I was in the dyeing mood, I decided to dye some more yarn. And I know that this is Knit Picks Chroma Worsted. However, I think I had used part of the skein. I no longer have the label. I don't know how many yards are in here. And I used the same colors as I did with this one. Neither one of these is superwash. And so the color took the way I expected it to take, because I'd watched a lot of videos. In particular, I watched Rebecca from ChemKnits dye superwash and non-superwash, and the superwash takes up the dye faster. And so this slow process of take up and blah, 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 who cares? Anyway, this is what I got. And there's a defect in the yarn in the skein where even though it's a single ply, one of the plies, like a bunch of threads broke. And so this one I have to keep. But I will definitely find somehow, some kind of way to bury it in another color that makes it more palatable. And my main objection is that I think I used too much yellow, more yellow than I ever thought I was using. That, and it doesn't look that yellow. Oh, yeah, there we go. And so, because it has a defect in it and because I don't know how many yards are in here, I'm keeping this one. But I'm going to mix it with something else and bury it in some color work of something, and then it'll be gone. But this skein is back up for grabs. But just look at the difference. Even though I used the same colors, it just took the dye completely differently. So anyhow, those are ready to go. So first person on the thread. Okay, so now let's talk about my knitted stuff, because I did do a couple of knitted things. The first thing I did was the Circular Yoke Summer Tee by Purl Soho. And I made that with, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I made that with Valley Yarns Prescott, and it's a Webb's brand. And it's 55% silk and 45% cotton. It's very soft, and it's like a, it's showing up like a blue-gray here, but it is absolutely gray. It's more like a silver gray. I don't know how to get you that color. It's a silver gray kind of color. Nice, easy to work with, a little bit inconsistent, but not in a bad way. So this is the Circular Yoke Summer Tee, and it is a free pattern, as I said, on Ravelry. I used a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter, and when I started, I was so worried because there was such a curl here, such a curl here, and such curling at the end. It was totally rolled up, and I was so worried that it wouldn't work out. But once you do the finishing bind off here, this one I knit, I believe this, I don't remember what I did with this one. This one was knit also, picked up stitches and knit them. And I got smart at the end, and this is a crocheted bind off. So it still curls, but it's not curling in a bad way. It still looks pretty good. It fits well, and I would make this again. I would make this again. You can see some of the inconsistencies in the yarn down here. Just slubs from probably the cotton, or it could be the silk. Who knows? But I have no other complaints. This is a perfect summer top. This fabric is a little bit heavy, but if you, I imagine, could get gauge and make it out of some heavy fingering, be a perfect top and a perfect use. And I got 7.5 skeins of yarn out of my stash, which is always a bonus. So, Circular Yoke Summer Tee. I loved making it. I'm gonna love wearing it. And who knows? Maybe before summer I'll have a bunch of them. So the other thing I made, and this is in the Plover Bird bag. Who couldn't fall in love with that? Is when I was at Rhinebeck, the cat lady was giving away a pattern as a promotion for her channel. And she gave away a pattern called the Twinsies shawl. So I had some Loopy U Legends, and the color is Tracy's Organic Cotton, and it is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And it looks like this. And I was misled into thinking that this would not have this gold color that is so goldy gold, too close to yellow. It's an asymmetrical shawl. The pattern is dead on easy. It's like you can't make a mistake. Stitch counts and everything is like so well written. that you like you can't even mess up. You can mess up your yarn overs if you want to, but just not possible to mess that up. So looks like this, and I don't think it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I think it's a paid for pattern, but the colors are not thrilling to me, so I'm not happy. Shawl is very long, so if this is my wingspan and it just keeps going, it's asymmetrical. It's a gorgeous, perfect, oops, and I love the look of it. I love everything about it. I just wish I had used a different yarn. So I'm not real happy with the colors. I'm just not. I don't think it does anything for me. So this might have to go in the mail. It's pretty. It's nice. It doesn't go with anything I own. But it's so soft. That alone would make me want to keep it. But I could probably screw it up by over dyeing it and ruining it for somebody else. So I don't think I'm going to keep this one. But there may come a time when I make it again, because the pattern is so easy. So easy. And it's a pretty effect. So that's the other thing I made. And I made that with a US 6, which is a 4mm needle. The yarn is great. The color is just not me. So I'll figure out who's going to get that. And it won't be considered Christmas knitting because I knit it originally for myself. Just don't like it, so I'm not keeping it. The Loopy U has these Loopy Legends, but I don't know if they sell this color anymore because I got this several years ago. And it was sitting in my stash, and I was thinking, oh, I need to make something that's going to use up most of the yarn. So this is all that's left. And maybe it can go into my Advent swap for next year if there is one. So not bad colors. I wasn't overly thrilled with the color. That was the only thing that made me not happy. So the other thing I made is a pattern called Winterlight by Meg Gadsby. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry, and I made it with Seven Sisters Arts. It is their Meridian Gradient. So it came with 6 skeins of gradiating yarn, and I used 4 of them to make Winterlight. I know what you're thinking. It kind of looks like the Twinsies shawl, but it's not. So I started with the darkest color, and then I went to the next color. Then I went to the next 2 colors. So the rows get longer, so the skein doesn't go quite as far. And I used up every ounce of this last one, and there was a little bit more to go, but I didn't want to break a whole skein to do 2 rows, so I left them here. I know exactly what I'm doing with these mittens. So the difference between this and the Twinsies is that these are garter rows and this is a different kind of texture, and then there's the lace in between. I love this yarn. I love the size of this shawl. It comes in 2 sizes and I made the large one because I wanted to use up almost all the yarn. It's hard to, it's so dark, but I wanted to use up as much of the gradient yarn as I could. And you know, I'm not the type of person who goes for red too much. But when I saw this yarn at New England Fiber Festival, I fell in love. It was this, or it was like an some kind of aquamarine or something like that. But I don't do blues either, so this is just too perfect. So many ways to wear this. I love it, and I wish that you could see it how I'm seeing it. I don't know if it's just getting blown out. Oh, the pattern is extremely well written. Great job, Meg Gadsby. The pattern is extremely well written with different sections and stitch counts after the sections are done. And then you just keep going and going and going, and it's just so nice. Oh, I love this. And I love the reds. And, you know, I have black, 3 black coats, 1 gray and white coat, 1 red coat, a green one. So this isn't going to go with everything, but anybody who knows me and who has seen me knows that I am not one to shy away from adding a color that doesn't match my coat all the time. And normally I'll wear a scarf and a hat that don't match, or a hat and mittens that don't match, or whatever, because it's my knitting and I can wear it anywhere, anytime, any way I want to. So this is the pattern. Lovely and perfect. And I'm going to make another one of Meg's patterns, because if they're all written like this, I could make all the ones I love and never have to worry about running into a problem. So that's it for my finished objects. And like I said, I already know what I'm doing with this. So the last thing I'm working on is a hat. And it is called Tied Knots by Jennifer Lorkowska. I'm sorry, Justyna Lorkowska. And there goes that. I am using some yarn that was given to me by TV McCarthy Tracy. And it is Plucky Knitter. 280 yards of pure cashmere. It's a one-hit wonder, so it doesn't have a colorway. I am using a US 4, and I'm going to show you, if I can, what the hat looks like. That's Okay, so it's a work in progress, so I'm not very far. I actually only have done one pattern repeat. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I'm tangled up here. Hold on one second. And this is how far I got. I'm loving this hat. So the pattern calls for you to use a size 4 and a size 6. But this yarn is much too thin. It's not so sport weighty. Oh, that shows the color perfectly. So instead of using a 4 and a 6, I started with a 4 and I'm going to keep going with a 4. So it's obviously a teal color, which means it's going to go with everything I own. And it says to do 2 repeats of the pattern. I may have to do 3 because I needed to come down over my ears, and I may do 3 because at some point I may roll it up and I don't want to lose the cable pattern. So this is what it looks like. And I'm loving it. And, you know, I haven't knit with cashmere in years. I'm pretty sure there's a reason. I don't remember what it is. And whatever it was, I'm not still having the same problem because I'm totally loving the color and the feel of this yarn. And that's in my Fat Squirrel Christmas cupcake bag that I purchased I don't know, some time ago, a couple years. So I don't, now that I look at this, yep, size 4. I'm using, excuse me, the Addy Lace Clicks because it was the only needle I had in this size that would work, but the join on them is terrible. So nice pattern, nice hat. It's going to be good and warm. I'm going to make it long enough to cuff it if I want to, if it's cold. And then I've already picked out the stuff that I want to do next. And I'm not too ashamed to say that Sadie from the Yarnivore podcast has made a Mobius from Elizabeth Zimmerman's Knitting Around book. And when I saw her put it over her head, I was like, oh my God, I need that. Even if I only use it to work in the backyard, even if I couldn't find any. When it's snowing outside, having that is so much better because when you're shoveling and stuff, you get hot and sweaty, and the Mobius is going to keep your head covered from the snow, but it's not going to let all that heat stay trapped in. Excuse me. So I think that's going to be next up on my list. I have some I have a few leftover yarns, 2 skeins or 3 skeins of worsted worsted. So I want to use them up. I want to get them out of my stash, but you can make it in any weight yarn you like. So I think that's going to be next on my list. So now I guess it's time to put this one in the bag. I am going to try to get back to you before Christmas, and if I do, I do. And I'm going to be extremely happy to be finished with the Biggest Loser Stash Reduction Challenge because I'm tired of ratting myself out when I buy yarn. Not that you can't. It's not a problem. As long as you use more than you buy, I guess that's fine. But yeah, I'm tired of ratting myself out. Nobody knows what my stash looks like. Now it's been posted all over Ravelry. Now I have to use it all up before I buy any more, because my next buying expedition is supposed to be, I think it's the North Carolina Fiber Festival. I believe it's in Raleigh, and I think it's in, that would be Raleigh, North Carolina. And I think it's in March or April. So I think if I can swing it, I think that's my next event that I'm going to go to. And don't look at all of that stuff over there. You see that stuff in the bins? That's all stuff that I have to use because I am making baby stuff. Baby stuff. So until I see you next time, I guess it's go on out and make something. And happy early Christmas. And if you have joined in the 24 Days of Cheer Advent Swap and you are the recipient of a swap package, I hope that you will show your goodies. It doesn't have to be a yarn swap. It could be an anything swap. But I got my swap box, and my days for December are numbered. I want to thank Caffeinated Gert. I'm dying to see what my lucky skein is. But I'll be posting on Instagram what's in these packages. I can't wait. And then I have to figure out what I'm going to make with all my mini skeins. The good news is that I don't have to wrap myself out for Biggest Loser Stash Reduction Challenge, do I? They're not skeins, they're grams. Do I? I don't know. Anyway. That's it for me. I'll see you next time. Until then, happy knitting.